all of them. So now we will start the Tulsi Ramayana Satsang. One request again to all of you who have logged in late is please switch off your videos, because attention of a lot of people goes onto those videos. We will start with the invocation of Tulsidas ji and Sri Ram, and then we will come to the portion. नमः श्री तुलसीदास सद्वरिष्ठाय धीमते पूरितं हृदयं येन राम प्रेमामृतेन मे दक्षिणे लक्ष्मणो यस्य वामे तु जनकात्मजा पुरतो मारुतिर्यस्य तं वन्दे रघुनन्दनम्. Okay, so we have been studying Tulsi Ramayana every Sunday morning 10 to 11:30, and we have come up to the Ayodhya Kand. And in this Ayodhya Kand, we were doing the portion where Manthra is speaking, she is instigating Kaikeyi. So, today I thought that Punyakal and what sadhana we do, it will have a very tremendous impact. So rather than thinking about Manthra and Kaikeyi, we must think about Bhagwan and remember the glory of the Lord. And so here it is, we will be continuing that portion what we had left in our regular class. But this session and maybe the next one, I have chosen one part of Tulsi Ramayana where in Ayodhya Kand, Doha 123. It's a very interesting portion where Bhagwan Ram, Lakshman ji and Sita ji, all of them, you see, they have left Ayodhya and they have come to the, Sumantra left them, and then Guha takes care of them for some time, and they leave Guha, and now they are wandering in the forest. They come to the ashram of Valmiki Rishi. Interesting it is. Tulsidas ji in Tulsi Ramayana is writing about the meeting of Bhagwan Ram with Valmiki Rishi. Because Valmiki Rishi is the contemporary of Bhagwan Ram. And that is why it is called Itihasa. Ramayana is called Itihasa. Itiha-asa. It thus happened. So that is the etymology of the word Itihasa. So it is called an epic. It is not a mythology, because that translation is wrong. That is put into our head because people wanted us to feel low about our culture and to dismiss the Ramayana and Mahabharata. Itihasa means that which happened. Maybe described in various ways using poetry and alankar and whatnot, but doesn't mean that none of this happened. So Valmiki ji meets Bhagwan Ram. So Bhagwan Ram, Lakshman, Sita, they all have come to the ashram of Valmiki ji. And there we see what happens. So just before Doha 124, we have here that Dekhata Vanasara Saila Suhaye Balmiki Ashrama Prabhu Aaye. Bhagwan saw that there are such beautiful, lovely forests and the lakes and the hills, etc. surrounding the ashram of Valmiki Rishi. Rama Dikha Muni Basu Suhavana Sundara Girikananu Jalupavan. So there are beautiful lakes, beautiful forests, everything which is there, wonderful, animals, Khaga, Mriga, the birds, all of them are there, such wonderful chirping noise they are making. It's a beautiful, serene ashram. And looking at Bhagwan Ram, Lakshman ji and Sita ji coming there, Valmiki ji is very thrilled. So what does he do? He goes there and welcomes them. Suchi Sundar Ashramuni Rakhi Harshe Rajivanen Suni Raghuvar Agamana Muni Age Ayavu Len. So Bhagwan was extremely happy to see this beautiful ashram of Valmiki Rishi. And Valmiki Rishi is very thrilled that Bhagwan has come. So he goes to welcome the Lord. And what does the Lord do the first thing? Muni kahu Rama dandavata kinha asirvadu vipravara dinha. Valmiki Rishi, Bhagwan prostrates to Valmiki Rishi first. See, he is Bhagwan himself, but in this role of Ram. And as a Kshatriya he is, and he has now been exiled. So he prostrates to Valmiki Rishi, and Valmiki Rishi also blesses him. Dekhi Ram Chabi Nayana Judane, Karis Anumana Ashrama hi Ane. He welcomes Bhagwan Ram, and he gives him, all the Atiti Satkar he does, fruits and flowers and water, etc. he gives. Bhagwan eats also. Siya Saumitri Ram Phala Khaye, Tab Muni Ashrama Diye Suhaye. And Bhagwan was given a place to rest for a while. Valmiki Rishi is extremely thrilled that Bhagwan himself has come. You see, this you will find in Ramayana, many places it happens, that when Bhagwan takes avatar, he does not take avatar for only destroying Ravan. That is a very small prayojan. And for Devatas, he has to do that. And of course, for releasing Ravan from the curse, he has to do that. But he mainly comes for giving moksha to the sadhus, sannyasis, sadhaks, bhaktas. So he will meet Shabari also, and he will, meet Bharadwaj Muni also. Many great people he will meet. So Valmiki Rishi he has met. So Valmiki Rishi is very, very happy. Valmiki Mana Anandu Bhari, Mangala Murati Nayanani Hari. Because he is now seeing Bhagwan for the first time. We should remember this power of the name of the Lord also. See, Valmiki Rishi has never seen Bhagwan. He was a Ratnakar Daku, and with Naradji's satsang, and Naradji initiated him into the Ram mantra, and he was not even able to say Ram. His tendencies are so wicked that he can't say Ram. So he's saying Mara. And many times we think that, oh, what is this? Is all, how can he not say Ram? It's so easy to say Ram. The idea is not about saying Ram or not saying Ram. The idea is about where is the mind. Where our mind is, there we are. So he may be saying Ram by the lips, but his mind is having murderous tendencies. So the mind keeps going there. So Tulsidas ji, Narad ji, he tells him, don't worry, if you are saying Mara, you say Mara, but think of Ram. Try to think of Ram as much as you can, but don't worry, you keep saying Mara, 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 Mara continuously, and slowly his speech and his mind will align. And that Mara also becomes Ram. So he has not seen Ram, but Narad Rishi describes to him the qualities of Bhagwan Ram. Just by the word, by the mantra, the power of the name, and that also Ulta Japata. He did the Ulta Japa and he became Valmiki, and now he is seeing Bhagwan. This is also a proof that Nam is more powerful than Nami. Because Nam, if you keep chanting, the Nami will come automatically. We may not even know. We may not even have seen. So those people who think about, Hindus are idol worshippers, and, we have primitive people who are pagans and who are worshipping these forms, etc. There are various ways in which our culture works. Beautiful it is. One is this, just by the Nam sadhana. No visualization of the Rupa at all. Only Nam sadhana and remembering that he is the Lord. And with Shraddha that Naradji has said, chant the name and you will be transformed, because he genuinely wanted to transform. So he transformed. That's the power of Shraddha, that is the power of Abhyas, that's the power of Bhakti, and of course Bhagwan's Karuna. So Valmiki Rishi went beyond body identification, and there was an anthill built on him, meaning so deep his mind went into that lost consciousness of the body fully. And here it is that Valmiki Rishi now has darshan of Bhagwan Ram. See, Taba Muni Ashrama Diye Suhaya, Mangal Murati Nayana Nihari, Taba Kar Kamala Jori Raghurai, Bole Vachana Shravana Sukhdai. Then Bhagwan Ram folds his hands and he speaks to Valmiki Rishi. What does he say? Tumatrikal Darasi Muninatha Biswa Badarajimi Tumhare Hatha. He said, oh Valmiki Rishi, you are Trikala Jnani. Past, present, future, you know everything. And the whole world is like a berry fruit in your hand. Meaning you are so knowledgeable, you have realized the oneness with the Supreme. Asakai Prabhu Sab Katha Bakhani, Jehi Jehi Bhati Deena Banurani. Saying this, meaning you already know everything, but I am just expressing. Now see, Bhagwan is saying this to Valmiki Rishi, that I am just expressing to you my background, that why he is here in front of Valmiki Rishi in this form. So he tells him everything. Tata Vachana Puni Matu Hita, that my father had given this word and it is his command. And for the boon that my mother asked, Matu Hita Bhai Bharata Asarau, and Bharat has to become the king there. Mo kahu daras tumhara prabhu, sabu mama punya prabhav. He said, because of that I am now in forest and I have the honor of your darshan, and it is all the power of my punya karma. Now you see, this is one thing which we have to understand from Bhagwan Ram's life and which we can apply even today. It is a matter of perception. How he perceives this whole incident, you see. One night before, Vashishta Muni has come and told him that he has to do upvas, he has to lie on the floor, he has to do japa and sadhana to prepare himself for the coronation which is going to happen next morning. At that time, Bhagwan Ram feels sankoch, that we saw in Ayodhya Kand earlier. He feels the sankoch that, you know, this school is very, very beautiful, this entire family is wonderful, but why is it that the eldest only has to be the king? Why not all of us rule this whole kingdom, all the 4 brothers? And so in his mind, this is the thought. And overnight the entire thing turns and he is told to go away to the forest, and he is told that 14 years you will be in the forest and you have to live like a forest dweller, not with any of the grandeur of a prince, and Bharat will rule the kingdom. It is actually a tragedy, but he doesn't think of it as a tragedy at all. In difficult times, if dhairya is there in the mind, fortitude and patience, and vivek is there in the buddhi, then the most difficult circumstance also we can turn into an opportunity. Bhagwan Ram's life is an example of that. That how he transformed this entire adversity into opportunity. And he says that here, you see. Mo kahu daras tumhara prabhu, sab mama punya prabhav. It is my punya that has brought me here. He doesn't think of it as some papa karma he has done because of which he is suffering. This is why I say vivek, that is vivek. And dhairya is not to allow the mind to be disturbed. That's the why, that is the lakshan of a dhira purusha. Dhairya comes, the word dhira, and dhi means buddhi. So our mind, which will get very disturbed, can be controlled with buddhi, and the mind can be told, hold on, have equanimity, don't lose your balance. Why? Because in the most provocative situation, one who can remain equanimous, that person is a wise person. Kalidas ji said this very nicely. Vikar hetav prapte yesham chetamsi na vikriyante te eva dhiraha. In the most difficult circumstance, one who does not get disturbed, that person is a wise person. And so here it is that he explains that very clearly to Valmiki Rishi. It's my punya. So instead of looking at it as papa, oh, some bad karma I must have done, I have to face these consequences. I don't know why this has to be happening right now. So this whole year, there have been so many difficult things which have been happening. Either one can look at it in a negative way, saying, oh my God, some bad karma and I'm going through the result of it. So even if one thinks it is some negative karma, the positive way to look at it is what? That it is getting over, finished. It is getting over. No, but why it is happening all one shot together? It's good now, one shot, everything is getting over. Now new era will begin. Positivity, development, growth, many things will happen. And even in this kind of a situation, how many things are positive that one can look at? Like how Bhagwan Ram is saying, it is my punya. How many people's life has slowed down? There are challenges, there is no doubt. But many people have transformed it as an opportunity also. We have got time to spend with family. We've got time to sort out our priorities, time to do more satsang. All our satsangs, the number of people have increased. The attendance has increased in every satsang. Nature has healed itself so much. Human being understands that how one is exploiting this nature. There are many positives also. So it depends on what I take out of that situation. Now here Bhagwan Ram is setting his own example by saying that all this which has happened is because of some punya. Mama punya prabhav. Now somebody may say that what punya and what papa for Bhagwan. It is a fact. There is no punya and papa for Bhagwan, but when he is playing this role as a prince, then he is speaking this way that okay, there is some punya of my past, but Bhagwan doesn't have any past punya or past papa. It is a way of ensuring that we, as human beings, we learn some lessons out of this. Because we have karta bhav, bhokta bhav, so we have punya and papa. Bhagwan has no punya and papa. But it is for laukik vyavhar, for us. So moh kahu daras tumhara prabhu, sabu mama punya prabhav. This is Doha 125. Dekhi paya muniraya tumhare, bhaye sukrita saba sufala hamare. All the good actions earlier which I have done, sukrita. Sukrita means good actions. The result of sukrita is punya. That punya is actually karma phala. So he says that all the good actions have culminated in this punya, the result of punya. So now punya can be used for both. Punya can be used to enjoy. Punya is that because of which we get a human body, a good family, proper, wealth. We don't have to struggle for daily survival, good relationships, knowledge, facilities, all that come because of punya. Enjoyment, luxuries, all that come because of punya. Or I can use punya for satsang, sadhana, seva, sanyam, swadhyay, any of these. It's a human being's choice by their desire that where the punya karma will lead them. And here he says that my punya has brought me to all of you. Ab jaha raura ayasu hoi, muni udabeguna pavai koi. Now he is asking Valmiki Rishi that now that I have come here, you please tell me, I am asking your guidance. Ab jaha raura ayasu hoi, where should I build my home? Because he has to stay 14 years now in the forest. He says, I want to build a home, meaning a Parnakuti, he has to build a hermitage. He has to build because he has to live like a forest dweller. Muni Uda Beguna Pavai Koi. You please tell me such a place where the Rishi Munis who are doing tapasya, they should not get disturbed. See, this is sensitivity. A mind which is disturbed will disturb other minds. Bhagwan has enough cause for disturbance, to feel victimized, to feel that life is unfair, to feel that this is completely, I do not deserve this. See, you and I may cry sometimes saying, what have I done to deserve this? But we should ask ourselves that question, what has Bhagwan done to deserve this? Nothing. Jiva has done sukrita or duskrita, so the karma phala comes. Good actions or bad action, karma phala, punyam, papa, whatever comes. What karma has Bhagwan done? Bhagwan has done nothing. Why should he suffer? So he can easily victimize himself saying, what have I done to deserve this? Nothing. His heart is quiet, absorbed. One part of his life, now this he has to handle. What has happened earlier is one part of the life. Now the new phase has started. So the change is a changeless law, all of us know. How fast one is able to adapt to the changes. That shows one's spiritual depth, one's detachment also. And the result of study, knowledge, devotion is detachment. That ability to accept life as it comes without insistence, without resistance, that is called detachment. Detachment is not running away from life. And Bhagavan shows such great detachment. He is learning to accept. He doesn't say that, oh my God, I used to live in palace and now look at my condition. Now I have to roam in forest and I have to build a Parna Kutir and now live here in this. Where are my servants? Where are my... Nothing. No victimization. Nothing. And he is more sensitive. Saying ki, I don't want to disturb any tapasya of any muni. Muni udaveguna pavai koi. Muni tapas jina te dukh lahahi, te nares binu pahavaka dahahi. He says that if you disturb the tapasya of Muni, that prince will die without fire also. Meaning that person will get such negative karma. That somebody who is doing tapasya, who is quietly trying to withdraw and realize the self, why you go and disturb that person who is most harmless to you? And what kind of disturbance can be? There can be so many types of disturbance because he is a prince. And now he is living in the forest. So he may take time to get used to the forest. Other munis and rishis, etc., living there quietly absorbed in samadhi, even their basic movements can create disturbance. Plus there is Sita ji. Now suddenly there is a woman there in the forest, so a lot of dangers are there in the forest. So Bhagwan Ram and Lakshman may have to protect her, for which they may have to fight, kill, many things are possible. So Bhagwan is very aware. He says, I don't want to disturb anybody. Mangal Mula Vipraparitoshu, Dahai Kotikula Bhusararoshu. Asajiya Jani Kahiya Soi Thau, Siya Sau Mitri Sahita Jaha Jao. You keep all this in mind, that I don't want to disturb anybody who is a sadhak. This is a very nice definition of a sadhak. Who is a sadhak? Akhandanand Ji Maharaj used to say this, जो बाधक नहीं है वो है साधक. One who does not disturb others is a sadhak. Especially one should not go and disturb consciously. When we are not very sensitive or we are in a mood of casualness or joking, then we may go and even instigate somebody or trouble somebody or try to pull their leg. Those are different aspects. But as a sadhak, when one becomes more sensitive, one is very clear that one should not hurt anybody mentally, verbally, physically, should not create a disturbance. Why? One very simple reason is our karma comes back to us only. Why do such karmas? And more important, why bother about others when there is not enough time to even go within and realize the self and do bhakti of the Lord and surrender to the Lord? Why will I waste time in disturbing other people? And when they get disturbed, the repercussions I also have to face. So why do all that? So he says, you please keep in mind all these factors, that I don't want to disturb anybody. This is his humility, this is his sensitivity, this is his equanimity. All the three beautifully Bhagavan shows here that how one should live with utmost sensitivity. And the sensitivity of a person is also revealed by the fact that they understand that when a person is, the subtler the work a person is trying to do, more absorption that person requires, and that task is more difficult, so we should not disturb them. The subtlest activity that anybody can do is contemplate on the self or take the name of the Lord and absorb in that. That is the subtlest activity one can do, because it's not at all easy. One has to withdraw everything. Withdraw from the outside, withdraw from the senses, withdraw from the body, withdraw from the breath, mind, and just absorb in the self or the Lord's name. That's it. Not at all easy. So if somebody is attempting to do that, they should not be disturbed, because very few will even attempt that. And so here it is that Bhagavan is telling him that you please keep this in mind and tell me a proper location. Taharachi ruchira parana trinusala. There I will build a parnakuti, meaning with leaves and the grass and all that. Basu karau kachu kala kripala. And there I will stay for some time. Sahaja sarala suni raghuvara bani sadhu sadhu bole muni gyani. Valmiki ji heard this and he said, okay, good, good, good. Sadhu word means good. Kasana kahahu asa raghukula ketu tumapalaka santata shruti setu. He says it is very appropriate that you speak such words full of care, full of sensitivity, because you are a palak of dharma. Raghukula ketu tumapalaka santata shruti setu. Because what is written in the Veda, you are the one who follows that. So now comes the stuti. In short, what Valmiki ji does stuti of Bhagwan Ram before he goes on to tell him where he can make the hut, and that portion is most beautiful. So he says, Shruti setu palaka Rama tuma jagadi samaya janaki jo srijati jagupalati harati rukhapai kripa nidhanaki jo sahasasi su ahi sumahidharu lakhanu sachara charadhani surakaj dhari nar rajatanu chale dalana khalani sichara ani. He says, you are Shruti setu palak Ram. You are the one who upholds dharma given in the Vedas. Tuma Jagdish, and you are the Lord of the universe. And who is this Janaki Devi? She is Maya. She is your inscrutable power, Maya. What does she do? Srijati Jagupalati Harati Rakhupai. Getting your command, she creates, sustains, and destroys this whole universe. And who is Lakshmanji? Jo Sahasa Sisu Ahisu Mahidharu. He is 1,000-hooded serpent, Sheshnag, who as though holds the earth. Lakhanu Sachara Charadhani. And this entire moving and non-moving universe is as though held by him. You are all these great, the Supreme Lord, his Maya, and Sheshnag, on whom Bhagavan rests. Surakaj Dharinar Rajatanu. It is for the Devatas, to protect the Devatas, to destroy Ravan who is tormenting them. You have taken this form of a human. Nararaj Tanu Chale, Dalana Khala Nisichara Ani, and you have come here to destroy all these demons. Rama Sarupa Tumara Bachana Agochara Buddhi Para. He says, really speaking, this is only your external form as an avatar. So the earlier description is as avatar. Now his description is as the Supreme Brahman. Rama Sarupa Tumara Bachana Agochara Buddhi Para. It cannot be described. Meaning through senses, this Supreme Consciousness cannot be perceived. And through the Buddhi, consciousness cannot be grasped. It is not an object of thought. It is the very source which illumines the thoughts. Abhigata cannot be known, is unknown, meaning cannot be known through usual modes of perception, through the senses, through the emotions, or through the intellect. Then how is the Lord known? Through a special faculty called intuition. This intuition arises when the subtle intellect and a pure mind come together. And one will intuitively know my nature is pure consciousness. I am not this body, mind, intellect. I am not the ego at all. So from the path of Jnana, the Marg of Vedant, those who follow this process of purifying their mind through Karma Yoga, doing Upasana, and through name of the Lord, by connecting to the divine, when one unifies the mind, then through contemplation, one transcends the mind to realize the self as one's nature. In Bhakti Marg, Bhagavan says, those who are such devotees, who are my Ananya Bhaktas, who are constantly thinking about me, Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvaka. With lot of devotion, they constantly remember me. Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Upayantite. I give them the Buddhi Yoga by which they come to me. So ultimate realization is only through knowledge. In one, Bhagavan gives the knowledge, in one, the devotee by the effort reaches there. But all of us know that that effort is also grace of Bhagavan. So abhigata, not available to be known through usual modes of perception, feeling and thought, but by deep intuition. Abhigata, akatha. Nobody can describe your glory. Even the entire Vedas, all the Itihasas, Puranas, everything may be written, but it can't even describe a speck of your glory. It is akatha. Apara. Immeasurable. And how is it known? How are you known then? Neti neti nita nigamakaha. Only by negating. By negating all that which is false, which is changing, which is illusory. So even if you see the Bhakta says Bhagavan alone is real, everything else is not real. Which Vedantin says consciousness alone is real, everything else is illusory or appearance of consciousness. Bhakta also says the same thing. Bhagavan is real. Everything else is appearance of divine. If we see other things, then it's appearance of the Lord only. So there's nothing undivine. So these two verses, in one he praises the Lord as an avatar and why he took avatar. In the other, he praises the Lord as the supreme consciousness, the absolute bliss. And he says, Jag pekhana tuma dekhani hare, vidhi hari sambhu nachavani hare. He says this entire world is a spectacle. And you are the spectator, meaning you are the Sakshi. The changeless substratum of the whole universe is that Lord. Even Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, Vidhi, Hari, Sambhu, Nachavani Hare. All these three also dance to your tune. You may say, but he is Vishnu's avatar only. How can Vishnu dance to the tune of Ram? So here we should remember, Ram here is Brahman, is and supreme. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh are with Upadhi. And this Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh are actually, for every Brahmanda, there is Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. The supreme reality is the one who is beyond all. So there are Ananta Koti Brahmandas. For all these Brahmandas, there are Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. But Ram here is that infinite reality which is beyond and greater than all of these also. Science is also coming to that or not today. Multiverse. There is not one universe. So this universe is a wrong expression. It is multiverse. There are many universes. So Ram is that. He says, you are that. Teu na janahi marma tumhara. Even they don't know who you are. Aur tumhai ko janani hara. Then who else can know you? Oh, this is a very terrible thing then. If Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh don't know, then we are nowhere in line. A beautiful line comes now. This line, if you want, you can memorize. What does he say? Soi janai jehi dehu janai. Soi janai jehi dehu janai. Only that person knows to whom you reveal yourself. Soi janai jehi dehu janai. Janatu tumai tumaha hoi jai. And why should I know you? What is the result of knowing you? Whoever knows you becomes you. Such a beautiful thing. It's Advaita. You just see here in Bhakti, there's so much of Advaita in Bhakti. We unnecessarily think Vedanta is separate, Bhakti is separate. There's nothing separate. They're together. Para Bhakti, this is Supreme Bhakti, where Bhakta and Bhagavan have become one. The knower and the known, there is no difference. Samadhi Avastha also, same thing happens or not. At one point, Ramakrishna was worshipping Mother Kali. He is a priest, he is worshipping Mother Kali. He becomes so one with Mother Kali, he sees this is also Kali, everything is Kali only. So he starts putting flower on himself. That is called Parabhakti, Supreme Bhakti, which the Upanishad also says, Mundaka Upanishad says that, Sayo havaitat paramam brahma veda brahmaiva bhavati. Brahma veda brahmaiva bhavati. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. This happens only in spirituality, that the knower completely loses. See, in other fields, it happens temporarily. Like a musician forgets himself completely, becomes one with the entire music, but the ego again comes back. Same way, a sports person or anybody. Temporarily, they may lose themselves in the field which they have intense love for. Again, the mind comes back. Again, the ego comes back. But a person who is like this Parabhakta, Bhagwan, they lose their existence in the Lord. And how that will happen? He says, only by your grace. Soi janai te jehi dehu janai. So what does a bhakta do? You see, this is very beautiful from Vedanta standpoint also and from Bhakti standpoint also. In Kathopanishad it is said that a person na virato duscharitat, na shanto na samahitaha, na ashantamanaso vapi prajnanenainam apnuyat. A person who has not turned away from bad karmas, duscharitat, whose mind is disturbed, ashantaha, and who has not integrated mind and intellect, asamahita. Then he says, ashanta manaso vapi. So why two times it came? The second time it means that even the desire for realizing consciousness is a disturbance that has to drop. Prajnanenam apnuyat. If you don't drop that, you will not realize. Same thing in bhakti also. The desire for moksha also goes. Finally, why? Because the joy is in remembrance of the Lord. Bhakta says, Bhagavan, I don't want moksha also. I just want to remember you and my mind should be fully absorbed in you only. Bas. In fact, in the end of this Ayodhya Kand, Bharatji says the same thing to Bhagavan Ram. Dharamana arathana kama ruchi gatina chahahu nirvan. Janama janama rati rama pada yahi varadanuna. Life, I don't want dharma, artha, kama and moksha also. What I want? Only life after life, ensure that my mind revels only at the feet of the Lord. Janama janama rati rama pada. Yaha varadanana. Please Bhagavan bless me with that. That is what the Bhakta also says, that I don't have any desire for darshan of Bhagavan also. I just want to remember the Lord. By His grace, whenever He wants, if He wants, He will give darshan. Nothing I want. You may say, no, but he asked that, Rati for Rampada should be there. That at least he asked. Here, he says that also is not required. Soi janai jehi dehu janai. So the bhakta just drops that anxiety also. One keeps on chanting the name of the Lord. One becomes what we call the final state, where there is, the final state of effort is where the desire for liberation also is gone. Oh, Swamiji, we already don't have desire for liberation. We can't compare that state to the highest state. We have so many other desires. In the mind of this person, no desire, nothing. Complete. This is called Ananya Bhakti, where the Bhakta has no ashray of anything. See, we take ashray of dhan. We take refuge of some wealth, some power, some position, some people, and we feel secure. Some people take ashray of their own sadhana also. That I am doing this sadhana, my sadhana will protect me, my good karmas will protect me. There's nothing wrong in that. These are different stages. But this Ananya Bhakta is one who does not take ashray of anybody else, does not take ashray of one's own sadhana also, depends only on the grace of the Lord for everything. Whatever happens is by grace of Bhagavan only. Whatever doesn't happen also is by grace of Bhagavan. Meaning the ego has no insistence at all. And the ego doesn't feel that I am doing anything. Soi janai jehi dehu janai. He will know whom you reveal yourself to. So Bhagavan, when he has to do, he will do. This is not a state of tamas. This is the state of highest sattva and going beyond. Because no insistence at all. Anything that happens by kripa of Bhagavan. That devotee who remembers this and who lives only in this bhav, that there is only Bhagavan's kripa which is doing everything. Even this remembrance of the Lord is by Lord's kripa. See, we may misuse this and become escapists, or we may become, do anything where we feel that by Bhagwan's kripa only I will take name of the Lord. No? So whenever I feel like I take the name, when I don't take the name, that is also because Bhagwan doesn't want me to take the name. It is not for misusing it. This is to understand that the state of the devotee is like this. And the realization of the Lord can happen only in this way. Gurudev always used to say, you can't smuggle yourself into that state. When he reveals, you know. And this is not only in Bhakti, in the Upanishad also it is said that Yame Vaisha Vrinate Tena Labhya. Whoever chooses this self exclusively, Tasyaisha Atma Vivrinate Tanum Swam. To that person, the Atma reveals itself. Meaning that person becomes one with that Atma. As the grace of the Lord only. So it's very beautiful line. Soi janai jehi dehu janai. So all sadhana, all effort culminates in this state of effortlessness, where effortlessly one remembers the Lord continuously, dropping all other desires. This is called purest form of love. Love for the sake of love, not for anything else, not even for mukti. Purest form of love is this, highest form. तुम्हारी ही कृपा तुम ही रघुनंदन जान ही भगत भगत उर चंदन. So here he says that it is by your grace only that your devotees come to know you. Tumhari hi kripa, tumhi raghunandan, janahi bhagata. And who are you? You are bhagata ura chandan. You are like the chandan in the heart of the devotee. What does chandan do? Why do people wear chandan on their forehead? Chandan will bring coolness. All heat, everything goes when chandan is applied. In the heart, there is so much of santap. Bhagwan removes that santap. And chandan is that which will stick. He says, you are like the chandan. So this chandan, just like the chandan sticks properly, in the same way, oh Lord, you are the one who as though are stuck in the heart of this bhakta, that you won't leave him now. And it is that grace of the Lord that it is that devotee becomes one with the Lord. So Bhagata Ura Chandan. Chidanandamaya Deha Tumhari Bigata Vikara Jana Adhikari. This whole body of yours, people think of you as this form with, as the son of Dashrath Maharaj and Kaushalya Devi. But actually, your body also is consciousness only. In fact, the whole universe is appearance of consciousness. We don't see it. We see it only as some tangible, finite, material object. but it is actually the Lord alone. A whole universe is appearance of consciousness. Our senses don't allow us to see. So in Bhakti, it is said in this way, Chidanandamaya Deha Tumhari, your body also, and it is a fact that, Bhagwan's body is not like our body. Bhagwan's body is Chaitanya Swarup. Our body is Jada Pancha Mahabhuta. Bhagwan's body is not Pancha Mahabhuta. It appears like that. That is because we have to see it. That's why it appears like that. But actually it is not. Why? Because Bhagwan says he controls his Maya and takes birth. We are controlled by Maya, so our body is made up of 5 elements. Bhagwan's body is not made up of 5 elements in that sense. So here he says, Bigata Vikara, Jana Adhikari. Bigata Vikara, your body has no Vikara. Our body has 6 Vikaras. It is born, it is conceived, Asti, Jayate, it is born, Vardhate, it grows, Viparinamate, it modifies. Then it becomes old and dies. These changes happen to our body, and it may look like that in the form of the Lord also, but actually the Lord's body is really only consciousness. Chidanandamaya Deha Tumari Vigata Vikaran. Who will know this? Jana Adhikari. Only a person who is pure minded will have this darshan. Otherwise, one doesn't know this. Naratana Dharehu Santa Surakaja Kahahu Karahu Jasa Prakrita Raja. You have taken this form only for the Santa and Sura, to bless the saints and to protect the Devatas. And you behave as though you are like any other king, Prakrita Raja. But you are the Lord of the universe, you are Brahman, you are Ishvara, and you are Avatar. All these Valmiki ji has said. Ram dekhi suni charita tumhare, jada mohahi buddha hohi sukhare. He says that Ram dekhi suni charita tumhare. Seeing you and listening to your glory and your katha, what happened? Jada mohahi buddha hohi sukhare. Even the most dull-witted person will become wise and will attain happiness. Tumajo kahahu karahu sabu sacha, jasa kachiya tasa chahiya nacha. He says, whatever you do is true, and whatever you say is true. Tuma jo kahahu karahu sabu sacha. Now see, this one line can be taken as bhakti bhav with shraddha, and also as the spirit of right inquiry. Whatever the Lord said and whatever he did is true. What does this mean? So a bhakta will have that bhav and say, yes, Bhagwan is the supreme, whatever Bhagwan does is the best. Surrenders. But when Bhagwan does so many things in Ramayana, we are not able to understand why he killed Vali from behind, why he sent Sita ji away, why he didn't go back when Bharat called. Many questions like that we have. So we have to have an open mind. There must be some reasoning. What are those reasons? Why did the Lord do that? We have to lift ourselves to his level. We can't bring him to our level. It's very easy to criticize Bhagwan Ram and say that, what he did was absolutely unfair and it is not correct, and, he's very idealistic, and, it is not acceptable in today's life and all that. But if you actually open Valmiki Ramayana and read Tulsi Ramayana, understand what, why, then this line will get proved correct. Tumajo kahahu karahu sab sacha. It is true. Why he did what he did, if we understand, it will help us to have more bhakti and shraddha. And then, of course, realization of the Lord would happen. You see, the best part is all those people who have gone through that. Sita ji has no conflict. Vali has no problem. Bharat ji doesn't have a problem. None of them have an issue. We have all the issues because we have not understood. They all understood. And beautifully they reply to the Lord. And their replies are such fantastic ones that we should be able to analyze and understand. So तुम जो कहो करहु सब साचा, जस काचिय तस चाहिए नाचा. You are the puppeteer. Each one has to play the role on the stage as guided by you. You are also playing a role. And as the Lord, you are the puppeteer who is controlling everybody. So now this is the stuti of Bhagwan Ram, of how he welcomes Bhagwan Ram and then how he first praises Bhagwan Ram and glorifies him. Now to reply his question, where should he build his Parnakutir? See, this is the most beautiful portion. So Bhakta, so the Lakshana of Bhagwan we saw, Lakshana of Sant also we saw. Now comes sadhana part. That's why I chose this portion, because in Punya Kala of Grahan and Surya Grahan, Bhagwan is born in Surya Vamsha. So the more we remember glory of Bhagwan, more Punya we also get, and more purified our mind is to revel in the Bhakti of the Lord. And now comes the Bhakta portion, that what should a Bhakta do? Because Tulsidas ji here, when he is describing, what did Valmiki Rishi tell Bhagwan Ram? Now see, beautiful. Bhagwan Ram asked him, I don't want to disturb anybody, but you please tell me where should I build the kutia, where I can stay with Lakshman and Sita. We will stay for a few years here. So you please tell me properly. So now you see the reply that Valmiki Rishi gives in Doha 127. पूछे हु मोहि की रहु कहा, मैं पूछत सकुचाऊ, जहाँ न हो तह देहु कही, तुम ही देखाव उठाओ, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय, बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय. इसे पूछे हु मोहि की रहु कहा. Says, you are asking me where you should stay. मैं पूछत सकुचाऊ. But I am going to ask you with a lot of sankoch. Because you see, what happens is, when somebody asks a question, one should get a reply. A question in return to a question, in general, is not considered very appropriate, especially to elder. You ask a question to know something is a different matter, but general pratha I am saying. If somebody asks you what is your name, you should answer, na, what is your name? You're not asking a question, no, first you tell what is your name. You answer, then ask. So in general, they say. So he is saying that, I want to ask you. You are asking me where you should stay, but I want to ask you, jahan na hohu taha dehu kahi. Where you are not, you first tell me that. Tumahi dekhao uthao. Then I can tell you where to build your house. Meaning what? Are Bhagwan, you are all pervasive. You are already there, everywhere. Now where to tell you that you build a Parnakutir now? So now when Valmiki Rishi is saying this, so the standpoint is important. We saw, no, he has worshipped the Lord as Avatar, then he has worshipped the Lord as Nirgun Nirakar, then he is worshipping the Lord as the Ishvara, the creator, who is beyond even Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, the supreme creator. All that we saw. So the standpoint is important. That from where that question is coming and at which level he is answering. So now he doesn't answer saying you go and build it in this place in the beginning. That he will tell later, last May he will tell. But Tulsidas ji here is giving such a beautiful description now, where he says that this, first you tell me where you are not, and then I will tell you where to build the house. Meaning you are everywhere, all pervasive. And he is asking this with sankoch also. Because Bhagwan is sitting in front of him. All of a sudden, and Valmiki Rishi knows he is Bhagwan in this form. And he explained all that before. So, Suni Muni Vachana Prema Rasa Sane, Sakuchi Ram Mana Mahu Musukane. Now, this is very nice here. You see, Bhagwan Ram's life, when we say no Dharma Samsthapana, he does Samsthapana like this. He's not only killing the Ravanas, killing the Ravana and the Asuras. In every action, how to respond in a dharmic way, that is called Dharma Samsthapana. Now, when Valmiki Rishi is saying this, what is Bhagwan's response? You see, Suni Muni Vachana Prema Rasasane. Bhagwan understands the bhava of Valmiki Rishi first. That, he's saying with so much of devotion, and that he sees me not only as a form, but he sees me as the all-pervasive consciousness. And then in his heart, Ram Bhagwan's heart, what he's saying, Sakuchi Rama Mana Musukane. He has sankoch and he smiles. The smile filled with sankoch. See, if somebody praises us, what we will feel? We will be inflated. Like a balloon, we just get inflated and go to seventh heaven. Somebody has to just say one sentence, not even elaborate praise. One sentence that person has to say, enough. We will be on seventh heaven. Wow. And somebody who we admire a lot, if that person says to us, then to for months together that, one will be on that high. And one goes on remembering what one did, how one did, and why this person said all this. But what is a sadhak's lakshan? Sadhak's lakshan is sankoch happens. Why? Because the ahankar is a mithya. And the karta is Bhagwan. And the one who is the karta and bhokta, karta, dharta, bhokta, everything is Bhagwan. He is having sankoch here. And what to talk about you and me? I'm not saying don't get excited or don't get happy if somebody praises. But the standard of dharma that Bhagwan has set is he has sankoch. Because as Ram, as a prince, when he is playing the role, he is doing dharma samsthapana. Valmiki Rishi is considering him as all-pervasive consciousness and praising him. You are that all-pervasive consciousness. Where you are not, you tell me, then I can tell you where to build a house. But Bhagwan Ram doesn't get elated and excited. He has sankoch, he has anand, but in sankoch. Meaning don't allow praise to get into the head. Simple. So many times praise gets into the head and then one feels, one is actually disconnected from the reality. One starts living in one's own world. And unfortunately, then that leads to a lot of injustice or, wrong actions. Many things can happen when praise goes into the head. Egoistic behavior, all that. Valmiki hasi kahahi bahori, bani madhura amiya rasabori. Sunahu Ram ab kahau niketa. He says, now I will tell you where should you stay. Jahan basahu siya lakhana sameta. Where you should stay with Sita ji and Lakshman ji. This portion in Tulsi Ramayana is where Valmiki Rishi is going to tell Bhagwan 14 abodes where he can stay. 14 places. Bhagwan asked one place, but Valmiki Rishi is explaining 14. I'm just taking first one. Rest, as I said, in the next Sunday satsang, we will continue and complete this. जिनके श्रवण समुद्र समाना कथा तुम्हारी सुभग सरिनाना भरहि निरंतर हो ही न पूरे तिनके हिया तुम कहु गृहरूरे. So this is the first house. 14 abodes he said. Now he will tell now. What are these 14? Jinake Shravana Samudra Samana. Whose ears are like ocean. Ears are like ocean. Meaning whose capacity to hear is like an ocean. What is the meaning of that? In an ocean, so many rivers empty themselves, huge mighty cyclones also may come and floods also may come, and the lots of water can get into the ocean. But does the ocean ever feel, but the ocean does ever it feel, bus enough now, too much of water has come now. The ocean keeps on receiving more and more and more water. Ocean's capacity is that much. So in the same way, one who is never tired of listening to the Katha of Bhagavan. Katha tumhari subhaga sari nana. All different types of leelas and glories of the Lord. One who does not get tired of listening. Bharahi nirantara hohi na pure. Just like all these rivers get emptied into the ocean, but the ocean never feels that now I am full, now I can't take anymore. No. He says, I remember, your house must be in the hearts of Tinke hiya tuma kahu griha rure. Bhagwan, you go and stay in the heart of that devotee who never is tired of listening to the Katha of the Lord. See, Bhagwan Ram's Katha also is like that only. No? Any form of the Lord Katha is like that actually. Ramayana story many of us know. But it is not about the story. It is about the glory. It's Bhagwan's glory. Every time we listen to the story, some new point, new insight, and new intensity of bhakti will increase in our heart. If there is a devotee who says, "Nahi, bahut katha ho gaya abhi," that means there is some rajas and tamas. See, our mind may, after this 1.5 hour satsang, the mind may go do something else and again listen to satsang later on, sometime in the week or any time in the day. I am not talking about that. The mind looks forward to satsang. Mind looks forward to listening to the katha. Mind doesn't have an attitude of aversion or attitude of, boring, I don't want to listen. None of that. He says you go and stay in the heart of those whose ears are like the ocean, who go on listening to the katha. In fact, Anandamayi Ma used to say, Hari katha hi katha, baki sab vyarth vyatha. Hari katha only is katha. What else? Otherwise, we will sit and gossip about people and gossip about things happening in the world. It's all nashwar. In Bhagavatam, it is said very nicely that, the ears which do not hear the katha of Bhagavan are like snake pits. Snake goes inside and resides in their heart. Meaning all this gossip, rumor mongering, fear mongering, all kinds of. And in today's world with so much of technology and information age, the strangest part is what is real, what is fake, we still don't know. Because how many fake propagandas, how many vested interests, what all goes on happening. And it takes so much of time to find out what is fact, what is fiction, and one still doesn't know whether what one believes is fact or fiction. Why pollute the mind with all that? Best is remember the Lord, listen to the katha of the Lord. Functionally, what I have to know about, just keep knowing and keep going. The real evolution will happen when we remember Bhagavan, his katha, his glory, chant his name, listen to his name, listen to his katha. And not only listening, there is a joy that arises when one listens to that katha. In Aranyakand also it will come. Bhagavan himself says to Shabri, Prathama Bhagati Santana Kara Sangha, Dusari Rati Mama Katha Prasanga. First step of devotion is to do satsang. The satsang already happened. Bhagavan Ram is in the satsang of Valmiki Rishi. And Valmiki Rishi is telling him the first quality, first abode where he should stay is the heart of somebody who revels in the listening of your katha. That is his abode. Why? Because in that abode, the devotee wants Bhagavan. And Bhagavan enters the heart through the ears only. That's what Krishna used to do, enter the house of the gopis through the window. This is the window through which Bhagwan enters. In fact, all knowledge we have is only because of the ears. Even what we are reading, no, Swamiji, we are reading a lot. How do we know reading? Because we heard, no? Somebody taught us A and they showed this and A and apple. So we connected. We heard and we connect. All knowledge comes only by listening. Bhakti also comes by listening. Bhav also rises by listening. So Katha Shravan has great Mahima. And so for today, I will stop our satsang here. We will chant for a little while the name of the Lord and then we will conclude. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Boliye Siyavar Ramchandra ki Jai. Some of you have raised your hand. If you have a question, then you are welcome to unmute. One by one, I will tell you. You can unmute and then ask. We will meet again at 12:30 for chanting of the Ganapati Atharva Shirsha. Yes, Dolly ji, you had a question? Okay. Nandini Prasad, you have a question? Dolly ji, you have to unmute and ask. Yes, you can ask now. You have unmuted.
No, Swamiji, it was a mistake.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Nandini ji, you have a question? Nandini Prasad. Okay. Mamta Parikh. Okay. Galaxy A30. Who is it? I don't know. If you have a question, you please unmute and ask. No. Okay. Priyanka Shah, you have a question? Your audio is not available, so I can't unmute you. Janani Vivek.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Yes, Hari Om.
Hi. So I have a question regarding criticism of Lord Ram for what he did to Sita. So we run into a problem where when we say that what he did to Sita is completely understandable, that is one way of approaching it. The other side is when people actually glorify Ram and think that everything that he ever did is should confine to human morality. So my question is, why can't we still accept Lord for what he did, regardless of his actions within the realm of Avatar? Of course, beyond avatars, like when he's Paramatma and everything, he's beyond any form of human notions of morality. But here, why can't we accept Lord, even if what he had to do can be considered cruel or unfair to Sita? It's still something that he had to do, in his position. And why can't we still praise him for both good and, if at all under human notions it's bad? It's still Lord doing his thing, and it's his leela.
If that devotion is required, then easy to accept. No, nobody. If a person has that devotion, then anyway the person will not question and one will accept, right? If the devotion is not there, then that's where all the challenges come. Then one wants justifications and reasons. Otherwise, like Valmiki ji has said here, Tulsidas ji is explaining that whatever he did is correct, only what he speaks, what he did is correct. Whether you take from avatar standpoint or Ishvara standpoint or from your human standpoint as a king, or you take as Bhagwan standpoint. Any standpoint actually you take, it is irrefutable. But the mind which doesn't have that clarity and the devotion will obviously question, and then will have, so that's the obstacle there. One has to understand better and have more devotion.
So should it come from a point of bhakti and devotion to justify or to accept what Lord did? Or should we also have a philosophical or Advaitic point of view where we say that, he had taken an avatar and he had to confine by the rules of the avatar, which is again...
That's why I said, you see, reasoning you can give. I'm not denying reasoning. You said, why should we have reasoning? Why can't we accept? So I'm saying it is bhakti. Reasoning, nobody is denying. Enough reasons are given. And proper reasons also are there. So it's not about confining oneself. It is about clarity. It is about clarity as the dharma, what he has to follow as a king. So if somebody is seeking reasoning, that is also available. If somebody wants to have bhakti, then that is also available. Whichever one wants to take, or both one wants to take, that is up to a person.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, Priyanka Wagle. So one thing before we go to the question is that if anybody wants to attend this Tulsi Ramayana sessions regularly, every Sunday when they are happening, then we will be sharing a link. You need to register at that link, and you can then join the regular satsang also. So that link is what I'm just going to share here in the chat, and you should go and register there. I'm just going to share that link here. Some of you are already attending, some of you are not. So this is a link for the regular Sunday satsang on Tulsi Ramayana. So you can use that. Priyanka Wagle. Yes, you can unmute. I sent that request. Unmute and ask the question.
Yeah. Hari Om Swamiji.
Yeah, Hari Om.
Yeah, actually, I just missed out a point. You were telling about intuition, that the Lord can be known through intuition, and which comes through when the pure mind meets the second part. I missed out. Pure mind means
Subtle intellect.
Pardon?
Subtle intellect.
Okay.
Pure mind, subtle intellect come together.
Okay. Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah. Vaishali.
Namaste, Swamiji.
Haji.
Swamiji, I have this doubt question since many years. Like I think most of us do. We all have little knowledge about meditation or doing this dhyana, satsang and all this. But one point that you mentioned here is unless the God wills it, we will not be able to do. And you also said that we should not treat it as escapism. So why is it that these sadhanas or meditations that we want to do, that we really want to do, we don't do it consistently? We are never regular with it, though our intention is truthful and pure. I want to do it. I really want to continue with the sadhana? Why is it that it just gets stopped in between?
It's our vasanas and karma pressure which makes us extrovert, and it's our vasanas and desires which are the main reason. Which, even though my will today is strong, the karma of the past I'm going through, if the force or the momentum of that karma is what makes me again revert back to the earlier way, because I have developed it over a long period of time, number one. Number two, it is because it is easier for the senses to become extrovert because they are created extrovert. So to work, to do something extrovert is more easy. Sadhana is to go within, withdraw from the senses, focus the mind, develop devotion, surrender. These are not things which usually the senses, the mind are used to. So it is more uncomfortable. So the mind which is not, the intensity may be there at a certain time, but then when one starts doing, it's a hard thing to do. So again, the mind wants to escape from that, you see. So that main reason is that, that's the reason why we are not able to sustain it. And that's why continuous satsang, and sometimes that's why the group sadhana, etc. helps, because my individual motivation can be lesser. But when I am doing it with the group, then I push myself. Like how people do generally, not only in satsang, meditation, you see that for exercise also. You go to morning walk, there are lots of people walking in groups.
Yes, okay.
Why are they walking in groups? Because, individually, if I have to walk sometimes, I may feel that, oh God, today I don't want to go, I am feeling lazy. But my friends come on the door and knock, come on, let's go. So now I am pushed. So it's like that.
This karma part that you mentioned, Swamiji, is there any way, I don't know, is there any way I can par that karma and do it? The karma and vasanas that you mentioned of my previous birth and all, is there any way of overcoming that?
There is a way to overcome, but I cannot escape. The way to overcome them is that I have to face them with dignity, Ishwar Arpan Bhav. Prasada Buddhi is the way to accept.
I see. Okay.
That this is what has come. I do that with Ishwar Arpan Bhav. So Prasada Buddhi to accept the karma phala, and Ishwar Arpan Bhav to while facing it and doing any new karma. Then what happens? The ego becomes thinner.
Okay.
Future desires are not there. Existing ones start getting exhausted. New ones are not getting inside. So that mind becomes quieter. The whole science of Karma Yoga is that. And that Karma Yoga is a very necessary preparation for Dhyan. Dhyan comes in the Gita in the 6th chapter. Dhyan Yoga is 6th chapter. But 3rd chapter is Karma Yoga. So most of us need to do Karma Yoga, do selfless seva. Wherever we are, whether at home, in your office, in my social life, everywhere. If I do it with selfless attitude, the existing karma gets exhausted, new karma doesn't get created, and mind becomes purified.
Okay. Thank you, Swamiji.
Right. Ananta.
Swami,
Yes, Hari Om.
am I audible?
Yeah.
Hari Om, am I audible?
Yeah, audible.
Okay. So, Swamiji, my question is regarding Ahalya Sharp. Since a lot of people also doubt this and say कि देखो अहिल्या की कोई गलती नहीं थी, when I know माँ अहिल्या की कोई गलती नहीं थी. But what is the context of the Sharp then? Because if we see the story, Mata Ahilya is not at fault.
No, that's a big assumption you have. That's the biggest assumption you have. You open Valmiki Ramayana and check, even Tulsi Ramayana you check. Ahilya knew that Indra has come in this form, and Ahilya wantedly engaged in the act with Indra. It is very clear. It was consensual. It was not any exploitation. It was a consensual act. Indra disguised as Gautam Rishi comes there, but Ahilya clearly knows that this is not Gautam Rishi, this is Indra. And she tells that to Indra also. And that's why both Indra and Ahilya get a Sharp.
Okay. But then because Ahalya ka naam to matlab and Pativrata Kanya, Panch Kanya, she's also there, so it is a little hard to.
No, that is, see, the point here is that it is a mistake that she makes. She goes through the penance, the prayaschitta for it, and Gautam Rishi also, because he gets angry, he also goes to do penance. And he tells her also that when you get free from the curse, when Ram comes here, you will be freed from this curse and you will come and meet me. And he accepts her back. He doesn't reject her, he doesn't shun her, nothing.
Okay,
People do mistakes. People, it happens. It's a human tendency, and that we have to look at it in the broad context. That how our scripture in that context is a very understanding, accommodative, having that attitude. You see, it doesn't condemn. Gautam Rishi doesn't say that you are a woman who is absolutely impure and fickle-minded. I abandon you forever. No, he doesn't do that. He understands that she has served so much, and he understands she has lived in self-control so much, that Gautam Rishi is a very different type of a Mahatma. And she has human desires, and which he was not able to fulfill because he is living at that highest level. So she fell in that moment of weakness. So for that she gets the karma phala, but otherwise she has been serving very genuinely, selflessly. So they unite again.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you so much.
Ajay Merchant.
Hari Om Swamiji, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to ask you, what are a couple of those qualities that we should have in us, that at some stage, if the avatar of the Lord is ever in front of us, we know that this is the Lord?
Bhakti and Sharanagati. Yeah.
So what is that?
Surrender to the Lord and devotion to the Lord.
Okay.
These two are necessary. When we surrender, when we have bhakti towards the Lord, whoever is my Ishta Devata, or whichever way I worship the Supreme, then I will be able to recognize. And when I have surrendered to that Lord, my ego has become lesser, and Ishwar Arpana Bhava and Prasada Buddhi, with this surrender bhavana, when I live in the life, then I will be able to recognize.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Ajay Merchant has done, yeah. Kiran Devra.
Hari Om Swamiji, can you hear me?
Yes.
Pranam Swamiji, I just wanted to ask, this regular satsangs which you'll have on Sunday will be what time?
Same time, 10 to 11:30.
And do we have to register again or just join the link?
No, the link I have put is where you have to register.
Okay.
I put on the chat. This today's satsang and next week is only because of this Grahan, you see.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Swamiji.
Neelam ji, is she still here? Neelam Mani, she had raised her hand, I think. If she's here, then you can ask the question.
Hello, Swamiji?
Yeah.
So today you spoke about something like 14 lokas and Ananta Koti Brahmanda. I always thought it was the same.
No, it is not the same. One Brahmanda has 14 lokas. There are Ananta Koti Brahmandas like that.
Oh, okay. Clarified. Thank you.
Okay, last two questions. Tanupriya Puri and Lopa Sharma. Yeah.
Hari Om Swamiji, I just wanted to know, for next Sunday, do we join the link which was sent to us now, or the future link which you have just sent for the next Sunday?
Sunday you have to join this link only.
Thank you. Hari Om Swamiji.
Yeah. Lopa Sharma. Yeah, you have a question? No question. Okay. Saroj Kapoor, you have a question? You have to unmute, please.
Yes.
Haji.
And you were explaining that Ram came there to ashram, and at that time he didn't feel anything that why I was not given my Rajpat and I've been exiled, and he had a lot of acceptance. Can you explain a little more on that, please?
See, as I said, he did not feel that there has been injustice done to him. He learned that, he accepted that, okay, earlier I was supposed to be a prince, but now my father has commanded me to go to the forest. Mother as father, both of them have told me to go to the forest, and Bharat has to be the king. So the events have turned. Fine. So if this is what it is, then I accept it. So the moment he accepts that situation, the resentment, the feeling of any victimization or any sense of grudge or grumbling, complaining, all that goes. Because one accepted, and that acceptance requires a lot of humility. It is
Humility.
to learn to understand that life has its own ups and downs, and learn to accept them as they come.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Guruji.
Okay. Oh, 3 more hands have risen, but now really no more hands rising. Huh? Yes, Lopa Sharma. You have a question, then you can unmute and ask. Or is it by mistake? Yeah, but you are not audible. You need to speak. Can't hear you at all. Maybe you type the question in the chat. Radhika Venkat.
Can you hear me, Swamiji?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Swamiji. My question is, you said everything happens due to the grace of the Lord.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you seek the grace of the Lord? When you're seeking something, doesn't it become a desire? Or does the grace of the Lord automatically descend on you?
So 2 things to understand here. One is the grace of the Lord is always present. It's like the sunlight. That's called the Samanya Kripa, which is always there, and which we can tune up to and understand that everything happens by that grace of the Lord only. And the second is called Vishesha Kripa, like it is like the solar cell. You know, when the solar cell is there, then you tap the energy of the sun specially and use it for a specific purpose. So for certain special aspects, like if one wants to realize the self, or one wants to fulfill any desire or anything which requires tremendous effort, then you invoke the grace of the Lord specifically also. And even if it is a desire, it is not a problem. Depends on what I'm using it for. If I'm using it for sakama karma, then it will give me that aspect, you know, the humility aspect, that it has been achieved by the grace of the Lord only. So I will not inflate my ego. If it is meant for sadhana also, that Bhagwan's grace I seek so that I have darshan of the Lord, that desire is no doubt a desire, but it removes all other desires. And finally a person comes to realize that when the oneness happens, then that all the desires have anyway ended. So it is a desire which helps to drop all the desires, and then finally it leads to oneness.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you.
Sapna ji.
Hari Om, Swami.
Yeah.
Swamiji, in many of the renditions of Ramayan, Sita in some of them is supposed to be a warrior princess, in some she is supposed to be a very delicate lady. And I have not read the real Valmiki or Tulsi versions, the proper versions of it. So, what exactly, like, did she participate in the battle that Rama and Lakshman faced when they were in the 14 years of exile, or was she protected? It's just a doubt. It's
So-
not anything to do spiritually. It's just a doubt.
So from Valmiki Ramayana standpoint, no, she doesn't participate. And we generally consider Valmiki Ramayana as the Praman, because as we see Valmiki Rishi was there when Bhagwan was there in the forest, etc. So
Okay.
in Valmiki Ramayana, she is not a warrior at all, but she is a very strong woman. The portrayal of Sita ji is not like how people show she is one Abla Nari and she keeps on crying every time and these unjust things have been done to her, and
Yeah.
very, very strong lady. She even tells Bhagwan Ram, the conversation that she has with Bhagwan Ram before Bhagwan Ram allows her to come is fantastic. Bhagwan tells her all these dangers are there in the forest and all that. She says, I will walk ahead of you and I will protect you. And she doesn't get scared. And she says, what do you think? My father brought me up as a weakling. You are underestimating me and my father both. We are capable. I'm capable of protecting myself, and I will protect you also. So don't try to tell me that all these challenges are there. So it is better that I should stay at home. So her character is a very, very strong character in whole of the Valmiki Ramayana. But she is not a warrior. She doesn't fight.
She doesn't fight. But she knows the science behind the fight, how to fight, how to protect. She knows that.
Possibly because whichever standpoint you take, whether as a Maya Shakti, she is the power behind this whole thing.
Yeah.
She knows everything. Or even as Sita, she has been brought up in the kingdom. See, and she must have definitely learned quite a few things about warfare and other things. May not have participated possibly.
Okay. And when Love and Kush are born and when they come of age, isn't she the one who teaches them? The starting teaching, the initial teaching is done by her on weaponry?
No, that is not written in Valmiki at least.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, for now we will stop here and meet back at 12:30